I'm going to get started. It looks like everyone's come in, and if they're a little late, that's okay. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Katie Whitcamp. We're so glad you could make it to this month's Women Business Leaders Council meeting. Just a quick reminder that we're recording this program. I wanted to first start out by giving a big shout out to the co-chairs for the 2025 year. Berdia Chambers, founder and CEO of Epic Transformation. Lorena Mascaro, workflow strategist, of Paradigm Marketing and Design. Stephanie Staub, Director, Infrastructure and Energy Strategy and Workforce Partnership at the New Jersey Community Colleges. And Sally Jo O'Brien, Founder and Executive Coach, Mercury Leadership. I'd also like to thank our presenting partners, CGI, New Jersey Council of County Colleges, and PSE&G. Our business roundtable partner, Citizens Bank, our meeting partner, HR for Your Small Business, and our event partners, Association Member Trust, Focus NJ, Manufacturing Counts, NJBI HR Support, New Jersey Business Magazine, and our podcast, Planet New Jersey. Wow, that's a lot of sponsors, and we're so thankful for all of them. And if any of you on this call would like to be one, please let us know. We at the New Jersey Business and Industry Association are thrilled that this group continues to grow and thrive under the leadership of such an amazing team. This virtual event is just one of the services NJBIA provides to help businesses and their employees with things they need help with, like HR issues, the cost of healthcare, the high cost of running a 401k, payroll, and so much more. We would welcome the opportunity to tell you more about us and how we might help you with the business issues you may have. Just reach out through our chat and I'll follow up with you. Also, as an FYI, we've got information on our 2024 Masterclass in Leadership program, as well as our annual Women's Forum live on our website. We'll drop the link for those in the chat as well. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Krishna Pal, founder and CEO of HR for Your Small Biz. Krishna is a personal leadership coach specializing in helping success-driven women prioritize their personal health and well-being so they can elevate their work and life success. She is a longtime partner of NJBIA, and some of you might remember her from the annual forum, as she is one of our panelists this year. I'm going to now pass it over to Krishna.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. It is so good to see everyone. I'm super excited to be presenting to you today. As you can see here, we're going to be talking about the future of future-proof leadership and women leaders shaping the next generation workforce. And so we're going to have a good conversation. We're going to have a great time. Let's just go ahead and get started. As she shared with you, I'm Krishna. Just to give you just a quick idea about who I am fondly referred to by some as the multi-gen leader. I truly specialize in showing leaders around the world what it takes to manage a multi-generational workforce. It is not for the faint of heart. And a lot of times we like to think that it's, just my organization that's going through the changes. No, this has been across the board that everyone is being impacted. So that's why I'm able to go to China, France, Singapore, South Africa, Ghana, you name it. Everyone's having these challenges. And so I think that's one of the things that make me very different, is that I'm not just going to regurgitate information to you that I've read. I'm going to share with you some firsthand accounts, some of my own experiences, and truly practical best strategies, best practices that you can use in your job. Tweak it as you deem fit. That is absolutely fine. But you may find some of the suggestions I have, it may challenge the way that you've been brought up and some of the things that you have had regarding your development in the past. And so just be open-minded to hearing some of those things and trying some of the suggestions out that I'm going to share with you. Now, the agenda is blank intentionally. Why? Because trust me, I got you. I got you for these 45, 50 minutes. I'm going to cover a lot. I am definitely going to answer any questions that you may have. Just know this is an interactive conversation. So you're going to be using the chat. When the time comes, we might even take you off of mute and have you to ask your questions. But in the meantime, use the chat. Um, Again, don't worry about the agenda. I promise you, I can get through everything. And not only that, if you have additional questions, like I said, I created this. I can easily answer any questions, then come back. So let me kick it off with a disclaimer. My disclaimer. I am born and raised in New Jersey. In particular, I am born and raised in Trenton, New Jersey. You know I'm a Trenton girl because I pronounce it I-N and not O-N. So what does that mean? That means don't ask me any questions you don't want to hear the truth to, because I am going to tell you the truth professionally, but I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm here to give you advice, support, guidance. I really look at the feedback, the information I'm giving you as a gift. It's up to you. You can open up the gift and say, hey, Krishna, I can use it now. Others may say, I'm going to put it on the shelf. Others may re-gift it. It's absolutely fine. I don't take any of it personal. For others, you're going to get off and say, you know what, I would like more information. So we'll talk about that in the end. I do have more for you. But let's go ahead and get started with a question. Go into the chat box and I want you to share with me what has been the biggest challenge you have faced with working with the next generation. So it can be a Gen Z. It could be you're a baby boomer and you're working with a millennial. Your manager may be a millennial manager, a director. Millennials are in leadership roles. So, what has been your biggest challenge with working with the next generation? Put that into the chat box. Work ethic, accountability, and commitment. Let's see, what else do we have? Differences in communication. Yes, 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 and yes. Oh, follow through with serious oversight. Oh, now y'all up in here telling the truth. Yep. Cell phones and screens, being proactive and thinking. Yes, yes, and yes. All of you, each one of you are correct. We are seeing all of those challenges and then some. So, what are we going to do about it? Well, one of the purpose of this workshop is really the passing down of knowledge from one generation to the next. We're going to talk about what that looks like because a lot of times when people think, when I'm talking future proof leadership and the next generation, the workforce, they're just sometimes thinking just about Gen Z. But I believe that there's still work that baby boomers and we Gen Xers have to do with passing down knowledge. I know for myself, I need to glean more information from my baby boomers. And we're going to talk about the benefits of each generation. We're going to talk about the challenges. Now, I'm not going to say that what I'm sharing with you is applies to anybody and everybody. That's not the case. But what I am saying is that there are some differences and some similarities in regards to the generation. So what we're going to be doing is just this true exchange of knowledge and information to really start thinking about what can we do differently. Because here is the thing. This is not the workshop where you go back and say, Krishna told me to tell you, you need to improve and you need to do this differently. That is not this workshop. This workshop is where you take a look at yourself, have the courage, because it does take courage to look at yourself and to think, what should I do or what could I do differently with my coworker, with my manager, with this new professional that has come through the door? Because let's be honest, they require a different skill set, a different type of management style, a different communication style than what we have had to use in past generations. And a lot of times leaders would like to say, well, Krishna, it's just common sense. But how many of you know common sense isn't common practice? It's not. And so this is why we need to have this conversation. We also need to understand that some things aren't being instilled in this generation, this new generation in the workforce that we've received previously when we were coming through the school. So they're coming in with the deficit. The other reason why we need to do this, a lot of times my leaders, in particular, baby boomers and Gen Xers, they go, well, Krishna, why should I have to do this? Nobody did this for me. There were no workshops like what you're holding for me for during my time. It was sink or swim. Yes, you are correct. But let me ask you this. If it didn't make it right then, what makes it right now? You're overworked, you're stressed, you're putting yourself through all kinds of unnecessary work because we're not passing down the knowledge, because we're not taking the additional time to train. Yes, it is going to require some upfront work. But for those of you, my baby boomers, my Gen Xers, you deserve a break. You deserve to get some of that stuff off your plate. You have been at it for 20, 30, 40 years. It is time for you to actually start thinking about how can I just pass this knowledge and this information off? How can I not only work smarter, but how can my life become easier in the workplace? Because a lot of times we've gotten used to doing the jobs of five, six, seven people. We need to step away from that. We need to burn that superwoman cape that we can do it all and be everything to everyone no longer. This is why when you're hearing me talk about this workshop, I'm going to touch on all generations because each one deserves to be groomed, deserves to be mentored, deserves to be promoted. But we also need to understand what do we need to do differently to help one another. So, this workshop is a lot about communication. When you hear me talk about generations, for the sake of this presentation, this is what I see as being the five generations in the workforce. It's unheard of. We have traditionalists or the silent generation. We call them that. They grew up in a time of not only the silent movie era or coming out of the silent movie era for some of them, but they were also the generation that was taught to be seen and not heard. Then we have my fabulous baby boomers. They are over the age of 60. We have Gen Xers, also known as the sandwich generation. They are over the age of 44. Then I have my fabulous millennials. They are between the ages of 28 and 43. Then we have Gen Z. They're sometimes called the Homeland generation or the iGen generation. And then we have the Alpha generation. They're not in the workforce yet, but they are coming. And so when we look at Gen Z, the reason why we call them the iGen generation, if you think about it, they're the first true internet generation. They don't know what life was like before Facebook. We also call them Zoomers. And that's just because at the rate of speed and information that they're getting and the speed that the internet moves. And then we also have Homeland. And the reason why is unfortunately they were born after 9/11. So they now know about Homeland Security and things of that nature. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that a little bit later on in the presentation. So, with that being said, what generation do you belong to? Go into the chat and share with me what generation you belong to. Let's take a look and see what we have here. Have some Gen Zers, have some millennials. Excellent. Have a boomer. Gen X, sandwich generation. Gen Z. Oh, you guys showed up. Excellent. Gen X. Who else do we have? I know we have like almost 60 people. Come on. More Gen Xers coming through. Some millennials. Great. Millennials, baby boomers. Wonderful. Well, I believe each one of you will be able to glean something out of this. So, we're going to talk about the obvious, the elephant in the room. Just know I got you. I promise. I got each generation. But we're going to talk about some of the myths. We're going to talk about some of the things that people are saying about each one of the generations. So let's start from the oldest to the youngest, or the more mature to the youngest. My young professionals, I done heard you say, you know what, Krishna? Uh, the boomers, the traditionalists, they are prehistoric. Come on now. Y'all have heard people say that. Yeah, y'all sometimes compare when we're using technology and etc. How much slower? How much more, Krishna? Why is everything so manual? It's like living in the caveman days. You maybe you didn't say it, but you know somebody who did. Well, let me share this with you. When we look at the silent generation, those over 79, a lot of times people say, well, why are they still working? Because they want to. Because they want to. What's wrong with that? They deserve, if they're 79, they say they want to come into the workplace, let them. They still have a lot of knowledge to contribute. A lot of times, the reasons why they're there, when I have the opportunity to speak with them and spend time with them, they've shared with me, Krishna, my kids are grown, my grandkids are grown, but this is what I love doing. This is my family, doing this job, being around my coworkers. And no, maybe I'm not working 40 hours a week, maybe it is 20 hours a week, but I love what I do. I love the contributions that we make. I remember when. And so that's the reason why they are there. When we look at the silent generation, they are very civic minded, they are very cautious, very respectful to authority, and very loyal. Um, Again, they have a lot of knowledge to share because they remember when. And remembering when, especially when you look at institutional knowledge, that can be a game changer. Because you see, for many people, for many of us who were born, I would say Gen Xers, when we came into the workplace, and baby boomers, when we came into the workplace, it was because the other person left. They had went on to another job, whatever the case may be. So what did that mean for us? That mean that we were sometimes reinventing the wheel because there was no one. We were lucky if they left us notes on how they did their job, how they became more efficient, who were the people to contact. We were truly learning things from scratch. And like I said, sometimes reinventing the wheel. You don't have to do that anymore. Nowadays, the person who did your job is usually still in the office. They've been promoted, they're in a place of leadership, and etc. You also have the internet to use to glean information from. But again, there's nothing like the institutional knowledge that you can get from someone who's been in an organization for 20, 30 years. So when we talk about why don't they retire already, with the in particular, when we look at baby boomers, they are, I like to call them the first come, first serve generation. Remember, I said the silent generation, they were very civic minded. Well, the baby boomers, they were the first. I want you to think for a minute about being the first. When you are the first doesn't always mean that you get a trophy. The first sometimes mean that you are paying in blood, sacrifice, and tears, especially when we look at those baby boomers who are women who came into the workforce. They were told, you know what? You just better be lucky that we have allowed you into the room. See, a lot of times right now, when you look at the conversation on Instagram and etc., people are talking about and having a seat at the table, being at the table, and etc. Well, this was the generation who was told, you better be lucky you are even in the room where the table is at. Now, mind you, I want you to look at the room where the table is. Do you see one woman sitting there? Do you see one woman anywhere in that room? No. That's what it was like oftentimes for female leaders, women leaders who from the baby boomer generation went into the room. They were told, you know what, sweetie, I know you're a manager. And sometimes it wouldn't even acknowledge the person being the manager, but can you go ahead and get me a cup of coffee? And you dare not say anything different because then you would be known as difficult and then you would not be invited back into the room. This is the room that baby boomer generation, many baby boomers, had to be a part of. This was the first to go ahead and walk through that door. But what I love is what Shirley Chisholm back in the day started sharing with leaders. You know what? She said, I understand they don't give you a seat at the table, but how about you bring a folding chair? And that's what that generation did. That's what baby boomers had to do. I'm sharing this with my Gen Xers, with my millennials. with my Gen Zers because I need you to understand the why. I need you to understand the sacrifice because a lot of times we just look at them and we think, ooh, they're in leadership. They're making great money. Their life has been easy. And we don't know or realize all the time what has happened behind the scenes and how they became the women, the leaders that you see today. Some folks say, well, Krishna, why do we need our baby boomers? You need them more than you know. Let me just be honest. If you have a baby boomer leader on your side, oh, they will fight for you. If they believe in you, they will fight for you. They do not mind going to bat. I have told many folks that I would not be where I am if it was not for the leader, not for the woman in the office who came before me, who fought on my behalf. Because I have had men managers early on in my career, men leaders say I was too young to do certain positions. I couldn't be in a position of leadership. And I had a baby boomer who was an office manager who went toe to toe with the leader in his face, mind you, and said, you need to give her a try. She has trained everybody that has come in, and none of those folks are staying because they can't tolerate you. But yet here she is still doing the job until she trains somebody else again who is going to leave you again. So give her the opportunity. She fought for me. I've seen baby boomers do that time and time again. They have earned our respect. And not only that, the best thing, one of the things I love most about them, y'all see what the last bullet said? They know where the bodies are. They know where the bodies are buried. So when you're trying to introduce new processes, new procedures, trying to figure out the challenges, why you're hitting roadblocks, oh, the baby boomers could tell you why. They could tell you how to overcome it. They can tell you all of those things. That's why I love them. They are absolutely fantastic. And those are the things that we need to realize. They Our baby boomers do not need to AKA be put out the pasture. Someone was sharing that, you know what, Krishna, I had someone to say she is at the end of her career 10 years ago. No, you stay in that office doing the work that you do, loving what you do, as long as you want to do it. That's what it's supposed to be. And we should respect one another for that. Because when your time does come, you don't want someone to escort you out or tell you or deem you no longer worthy or fit to be in that position simply because of your age. Think about the contributions that they have made and you would have made. And so, again, you get to stay in there as long as you want. We need to tap into them. Baby boomers, just to let you know, they have led the charge through activism, social change, and freedom. And they currently hold about 53% of the wealth in America. So that's about $60 trillion in spending power. What I love about them is, again, they have that institutional knowledge as well. They are the books, they are the internet. Remember, they are the ones who help put the information on the internet. But there are some things that you just can't read about, that you need them to tell you the why behind it. They can tell you the 5 W's. That's why you need your traditionalists and your baby boomers. They can tell you the who was involved. They can tell you what happened. They can tell you how it happened. They can tell you why it happened and where. That information is gold, is platinum, because like I said, when it comes time for you to introduce new things, when it comes time for you to share new practices, strategies, again, overcoming roadblocks, knowing that information can make your life so much easier where you don't feel like you are running around in circles. Now, let's get started on my generation. Gen Xers, we are the sandwich generation. And that you see the stress on the parents' faces. It is real for us Gen Xers. We have our parents who are aging. We have our children who are still growing up for some of us. We have student loan debt, their student loan debt, sometimes our student loan debt. The pressure is real. Um, People ask oftentimes, Krishna, why again with the working? Well, we have sacrificed sometimes our 401k, our retirement money, our savings in order to make sure our children have a much better education, career, and life than what we have had. So, and we've also seen a massive economic downturn that I could think of with my generation. There's been at least two to three major economic downturns that have impacted us. So, with that being said, we may need to work a little longer. So just to prepare the millennials, just know we may be in there a little bit longer because we need to get our money back up. And that's okay. But again, that's sometimes the reason why when you say, oh, they're still here. Yeah, that's why. I also want you to think about the fact that for Gen Xers, we are part of that generation that shattered the glass ceiling. Remember, I shared with you a few minutes ago about how baby boomers were the first. Yes, they were the first, but they weren't always allowed a seat at the table. My generation is the one who truly took it, who truly had the benefit of being at the table, of shattering the glass ceiling. I love this slide here because I want you to look at it. Notice how she's smiling. She has the little hammer or what have you in her hand, and she's about to shatter the glass ceiling. Well, I want you to think about for a second. When you are shattering a glass ceiling, she's looking up at it, all smiles. When she hits it and break that glass, what is going to happen? What's going to happen when she shatters that glass? All of it is going to come down on her. She is going to have some scars. She is going to bleed. She is going to pay a price for shattering the glass ceiling. That is sometimes what you as millennials and Gen Zers are seeing as resistance. What you may not realize is that you may have unknowingly, unwittingly rubbed up against some of those scars that we got from shattering the glass ceiling. It's not that we don't want you to be successful, it's that we remember when and how painful it was. And sometimes we're doing everything we can to make sure no one else has to endure the pain that we've gone through. And so, again, it's not that your boss, your manager doesn't want to see you be successful. They want to make sure a lot of times that you are fully equipped and prepared to handle what needs to take place, especially when it comes to dealing with senior leaders, with vendors, with people who are older than you, who can be more challenging than you. And so, or who will challenge you, not be more challenging than you, but who will challenge you, who can be very difficult. This is the generation who went through the sexual harassment, and there was no Me Too movement then. A lot of things, a lot of the laws that you see, we were a part of. Um, Baby boomers put those laws into place, but we were the ones who actually had to go to court and have those lawsuits. And some people had their careers that were shattered when they were trying to do the right thing. And so, again, some of the challenges that you're seeing when you're interacting with us is not because we're difficult, but because we remember. Gen Xers, we're the smallest generation. We represent about 34% of the workforce. But we generate about 63% of the income in the US. And many of us do have degrees. Now, my millennials, they have said some awful things about you. What are some of the things that they say? I've heard entitled, I've heard selfish, I've heard Krishna. They are monsters. But let me ask you this and chime in. If millennials and Gen Zers, I'll drop you together, even though I'm going to share with you how you're different. If you're monsters, if you're selfish, if you're the me generation, whose fault is it? Whose fault is it? I'm not looking at anyone. All you see, no one's looking at you. Whose fault is it? Put it in the chat. Whose fault is it? If you're selfish, if you're entitled, if you're the me generation, if you're where any of those things that they said. I'm not saying it's true, but whose fault is it? Tell me. Let's see. What do we have coming up in the chat? Everyone, a mix. Okay. What else? Whose fault is it? If they say you're selfish, if they say you're a millennial, you're the me generation, whose fault is it? I would dare say Lorraine is right. It's all of our fault. It's actually not just the parents because people say, oh, Christian, it's the parents' fault. No, Camille is right. It's society, it's parents, it's teachers. Because contrary to popular belief, millennials and Gen Zers paid attention. They heard us say, I hate my job. I wish I never did that. We want to say, Krishna, they're not loyal. But my question is, what have we given them to be loyal to? Because, see, they saw someone such as myself with 30 years of human resources experience say to their parents, thank you for 40 years of service, but we no longer need you. Here's your severance. And they said, cool, it will never happen to me. They saw a major economic downturn. They saw their parents go through depression. They saw sometimes divorce happen because of the financial strain. They saw their homes go into foreclosure. It has been real what millennials have had to see. And so they have had to make different choices. If you think of it, that's when they came of age. They came of age literally at the height of an economic recession. And to make matters worse, they were between the ages of 5 and 20 when 9/11 happened. So when you think about it, I have children in every generation. And I remember for my daughter, I had the opportunity, and you've seen this slide, I had the opportunity to speak at Disney. And I was telling my daughter all excited, and, you know, guess what? Mommy's going to go speak at Disney, and I'm taking you to Disney. And, you get to see Minnie Mouse and Mickey Mouse, and I'm expecting this excitement. My child burst out into tears. And I'm like, oh my gosh, who's not excited to see Mickey Mouse? Who's not excited to see Minnie Mouse? Like, what's going on? And she shared with me and said, we're going to have to fly. Does that mean we're going to die? And it like took me back. I was just like, whoa. But then I realized that was her reality because 9/11 happened. So this generation and what they've seen and what they've gone through has not been for the faint of heart. So when we do that comparison in my generation, if it was me, it can't be you. Because see, Gen Xers, I was there with you. We wasn't worried about no terrorist attacks taking place. And then we'll talk about with Gen Z how things got a little bit, how things actually got worse. Because sometimes we want to treat our Gen Zers like they're extraterrestrials, and they are not. What they are is they are young people who, when we look at everything about them, they are the most mentally conscious generation that we have ever had. They are old enough to remember the struggles of their Gen X parents, but they also recognize the trouble that we're having in our society and what they're inheriting. So if you think about it, we went from millennials going through the 9/11 attacks to now Gen Zers when they were in school. One, the most recent ones spent their latter years in the pandemic. So they did not get the interactions, the struggles. They got a different set of struggles that we got when we were in high school. They didn't necessarily get the mean girls and how do you handle that confrontation face to face? How do you talk to a teacher when they've not given you a good grade and advocate for yourself and have that conversation? They spent their last 2 years, their most productive years before graduating, in four walls. That's basically what happened to them. And so you will see with this generation, they are struggling in the areas of communication. It would only make sense. So some of those skills that we think that we used to consider as soft skills, we now are seeing with this generation is crucial skills. We're also seeing that we have to take the time to teach it to them, show them how to communicate. What does it look like to communicate effectively? Walk them through sometimes step by step. Why? Because again, they weren't taught those things in school. And some of the schools, even before the pandemic happened, relied a lot on technology for teaching the kids and having the kids interact. For my youngest, I remember when she went to school and they had I went to school to be a volunteer parent for the day. And so I'm looking forward to it, wondering how many kids I'm going to get to do activities with. And I was there most of the day. And then finally she said, "Oh, it's time for group work." And she was like, "Krishna, this is where you get to help out." She said, "I'm going to break the kids up. They're going to go ahead and they're going to do group work together." And so I'm like, "Okay, excellent." And so she's calling their names, and I'm watching them one by one go up and get tablets and then go sit down. And so after she got done with the last kid, I said, "Okay, so where's the group work?" "Oh, they're doing it all there on the tablet." So they don't talk to each other. They don't interact with each other. They're in the same room and they're expected just to do a tablet. Yes, that's what group work look like to them. And so when we bring them into the workplace, you now have hired them and you're looking at them like, okay, not everybody sit around the table and contribute. And they're having heart palpitations. They're having anxiety attacks. And you're like, what is this? This is just too much. This isn't real. No, it's real. Because they have never had to have that level of interaction. And so it requires us, if you're managing a Gen Zer, you have to have a certain level of patience. You have to be willing to teach them things from scratch. You have to understand that you have to teach them again what you deem as the obvious. Because they came of age during one of the most difficult times. We went from 9/11 terrorist attacks to these young people practicing drills in school for someone coming in and practicing shooter drills. And so when you think about even dealing with conflict and you wonder why, Krishna, you know what? They don't even know how to have a disagreement or they become all emotional. Well, think about it. If you were raised thinking that if you said boo to your fellow student the wrong way, that they would come and shoot up the school, then how quick will you be when you get into the workplace to share with someone when you disagree or when any type of conflict arises? That is what you're seeing the effects of. So when we look at them, unfortunately, with all of these stresses, with all of the things that have happened, we are finding that they're struggling. Although they are the most well educated generation, the labor market, as we know, is going to be tight for them, those who have graduated. They are on track to be the largest generation potentially in the workforce when they all come in. So they could potentially outnumber millennials, is what we're thinking, probably by like 2 million is what we're forecasting. Um, but nevertheless, the stress that you're seeing has caused them to be the generation that have more mental health issues than any other generation that has come before us. Do other generations have mental health issues, behavioral health issues? Yes. But our young professionals that are coming through, our Gen Zers, we are really seeing them struggle. And so we have to create space for them, um, that when they do have these challenges, that they can take a moment, that we're supportive of them and we're not judging them. Because I work with every generation on my team. I have currently right now 3 Gen Zers. Um, and what I'm finding is they're absolutely brilliant. But you have to create a safe space for them if they have any challenges, but as well as a safe space to learn and ask questions and not look at them like you should know this. Why am I having to tell this to you? So yes, there are some challenges. There are some things that we need to do differently. And what do we need to do differently? We need to serve one another. That's really the bottom line. We need to eliminate barriers, eliminate those antiquated processes, policies, and procedures. In particular, I'm sharing this with my Gen Xers and baby boomers that this is always the way it has been done. Doesn't mean that's the way it should always be done. So we need to get rid of those legacy ideas that are no longer serving us, and that what I call workplace insanity and bias. You know, that definition of doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Let's be honest, many of our companies have been operating this way. That does not mean you, as a baby boomer, when I say Be of service to Gen Zers. Be of service to millennials. The reason why I'm saying this is because I need you to remember your value. They are not your competitors. Help them. Share the knowledge. Let them know, again, the 5 W's. But don't treat them like they are your children or grandchildren, because they aren't. Sometimes we do. We speak to them. I've heard leaders speak to millennials, speak to Gen Zers, and tell them, I got children older than you. I got shoes older than you. That does not help. They are your coworkers, they are your employees. And for some of you, millennials are your managers, they are your leaders. Respect them as such. Assume nothing. Again, you don't assume that they know anything, and be vulnerable. A lot of times we don't share with them, excuse me, the behind the scenes. Excuse me. What about, excuse me, give me one moment, please.
It's allergy season. We can all relate. It's all that time of the year. So,
Excuse me, thank you. You're so right, because that's exactly what it is. They were cutting grass, excuse me, outside my neighborhood. Sorry, everyone. Oh, excuse me. But what was I saying? Oh, yeah, be vulnerable. Be vulnerable, be transparent. And thank you, everyone, for all the bless you, because I'm sneezing and coughing at the same time. Thank you. But be vulnerable with them and understand. Um, let them know the sacrifices. Let them know the scars and the bruises. Sometimes we try to hide it from them, thinking that we're being of service to them, and we're actually hurting them. We need to be transparent. We need them to understand what they could potentially go through. Because if not, they're looking at the job description and they are saying, hey, I should be a VP. I have my degree. I meet the minimum qualifications of the job. They don't understand or always know what is behind that job besides the minimum qualifications on that paper. They don't know about the blood, sweat, and tears behind the scenes. They don't know that they're going to have to go, if they're a leader, they may have to go through the difficulty of deciding to lay off members of their team. They don't know that what working nights and weekends or having to cancel vacations or having to come back early from vacation mean. They don't always realize that they're going to have to answer on behalf of their employees. Even if the employee made the error because they are the manager, they're going to have to answer on behalf of their employee. And they don't know that because we haven't disclosed it to them or shared with them the behind the scenes. And so we really need to make it a point to again be vulnerable and be transparent. Also, as leaders, we need to practice patience. When you're dealing with teaching the next generation, be it Gen Z or if you're a baby boomer and you need to transfer knowledge to a millennial, or even a Gen Xer, practice patience. Watch, learn, and listen why we do some of the things that we do, and don't just make assumptions. And be mindful of some of the things that you said. Sometimes we make these jokes. You wouldn't understand because you're a millennial. You wouldn't understand because you're a boomer. But how is that any different than someone saying to you, you wouldn't understand because you are Jewish? You wouldn't understand because you are a woman. It doesn't. It's just a different type of put down. And you can say you're joking all you want, but it's not a joke to people. It does hurt people feelings. They've just tried to let it go. They try to brush it off and keep it moving. But hearing that is not a good feeling. So I wanted to share that with you. I wanted you to be mindful of that when you're interacting with them. And that's a great point. I'm looking, and someone said, Krishna, I find that they need more background noise at times, sometimes body doubling. Yes, because ADD is a real thing. It has increased because of the stimulants in our environments, both electronic and environmental. So just be aware that and see if you can be flexible. You know, you may have been used to all these years a quiet environment, and now you have somebody who maybe likes to put a little music on or something along those lines. As long as it doesn't negatively impact the business, allow them that flexibility and leeway to do those things. The other part of serve is just educate. Make sure you educate them and by letting them get involved in new projects, stretch projects. Um, Make sure you teach the obvious, but also be teachable. Allow them to teach you and show some things. One of the things I have learned from this new generation, millennials and Gen Zers, is more about self care and self love. You know, it used to be where we wore it as a badge of honor being baby boomers and Gen Xers. I haven't taken vacation in 3 years. I got X number of hours and days saved. I haven't taken any sick days. And we've come into work sick as all get out, doing everything, doing the most, and it has only taken a toll on our own bodies, our own mental and physical well-being. We can learn from this generation how to pause because you and I know the work's still going to be there when you get back from vacation. So go ahead and take the vacation. Go ahead and take the mental health day. You know, many people think, oh, well, when you work from home, things are easier. No, it's harder because we found out that most people are working more hours working from home than they were when they were in office. And half the time you could be working at home and still forget to go to the bathroom, still forget to go take a lunch break because you're just so busy sitting in that one spot working. You don't have a coworker who's going to come up and tap you on your shoulder and say, "Come on, let's go get something to eat. Come on, let's go walk outside. It's a nice day today." And so for this generation, we need to we need to pay attention to the good things that Gen Z and millennials are doing. We're mad that Krishna, I'm working, and I can't believe on their lunch break they went to yoga class. Well, it was their lunch break. They went to Pilates. It was their lunch break. Did they come in and do their work when they came back? Yes. But I worked through my lunch break. That was your choice. But it does not have to be theirs, and it does not make them wrong for choosing to do otherwise. That's what we have to remember. And when possible, recognize and reward each generation however you can. Sometimes recognizing and rewarding them is just saying, I see you, I appreciate you, and rewarding them. Yes, the financial is always a good thing, but also find out from them if I only had $25, give me 10 different ways to reward you with $25. Because if you're their manager, you can do certain things on your own with $25. I had a leader do that. She asked her whole team, if I only had $25 to reward you and to get you something, what would it be? And she asked them to list 10 different things. And what she did was, even though things were tough in her department, she knew she needed to keep her folks motivated to perform. What she did was for her top performers, and when she saw her most improved, she would take that list that they gave her, and then she would go out and get them things that they had on the list. And they loved it because it was a gift that worked for them. It was a reward that worked for them. One guy in particular wanted golf balls because his wife told him if he buys any more golf balls, she was going to choke him out. And so what he did instead was put that on. So anytime he came in with golf balls, he was like, "My manager gave me this. I did a great job, and this was the gift that she gave me." For me, I wanted a gift card at the time. I'm telling my age, but I wanted a gift card to Borders bookstore in Barnes and Noble, and that's what she gave. I loved it. Why? Because it was what mattered to me. Oftentimes, we think we're rewarding employees by these things that we give, but if it doesn't matter to them, it's a moot point, and the reward can actually end up being like a curse. I remember being in an organization at a Fortune 100 company, and they said, "Hey, for our top performance, we have this awesome surprise. We're going to do some great things." I'm thinking, oh, it'll be a financial compensation, or it'll be a great dinner. There's no telling. Maybe we'll have dinner with the CEO. Okay, I'm all in. Jumped through all the hoops, did everything. Then it came time to give the reward and recognition, and it was tickets to Camden Yards on Mother's Day. Now, unless you are a baseball fan, I don't know about you, but even on Mother's Day, I don't even always want to be with my kids. They can give me the money and I can go to the spa. I didn't want to go to Camden Yards. So here I am with these great tickets to Camden Yards, and I'm looking for someone to give them away to. After I'm the one that busted my behind, did all the work, but they gave me a reward that didn't matter to me. And so that's why it's important to have that conversation. Also, failure must be an option. Sometimes we want to literally hang people out to dry when they make a mistake. You have to allow people the opportunity, especially young professionals, that, yeah, sometimes they're going to make a mistake and you need to be okay with that. You need to share with them, hey, this is how you be successful. This is what you can do next time to overcome this. But what you don't do is be one of those leaders that the person has to hear. Well, and employees will tell me, Krishna, well, 4 years ago, so made a mistake and they haven't been promoted since. Or when so and so tried this is what happened. You don't want to do that. Again, that creates a whole fear of failure, but not only that, hinders creativity and innovation within your organization. So if you truly want to value your employees, if you want to show the next generation you value them, you're going to have to ask yourself some tough questions. Look at what you value within your organization. You know, a lot of times we say we have an open door policy, but do you really have an open door policy? If your employee goes to your senior leader with a great idea, are you mad about it? Is the senior leader coming back asking, why are they coming to me and not to you? When y'all both have stood there and said, we're an open door policy or have an open door policy. Well, they went through the open door. You didn't say there was a hierarchy they were supposed to follow. You said open door. We need to be careful about what it is that we're saying. If we don't mean it, don't say it. Say, hey, we have a hierarchy that we follow. We welcome new ideas and suggestions, but this is the chain that we wanted to go through. That's absolutely fine. But you can't be mad at someone when you say things like open door, and then when they walk through the door, we're mad about it. Also, think about if we're frowning upon jokes when someone is different. When we're making jokes about that person that goes and take a lunch break, we go, oh, it must be nice to take lunch. Really? That's what we have to say? Think about it. Think about all those things and be mindful. Have your leaders be mindful of it. The way that you can help this new generation and develop them is by encouraging and empowering them. Not only say, I trust you, but show them what trust looks like. Let them know it's time for you to give it a try. Let them know I'm excited to see how you manage this project. I support you. I have an idea or a resource that can help you. What resources can you provide to them instead of passing down judgment? We need to know that. Now, I've come to the end of my presentation. I have one or two more tips I want to share. But before I do that, I want you to drop any questions you have for me into the chat box. So as I go through these last few slides, drop questions in. One of the things I told you is that for some of you, you may have said, Krishna, you telling me to serve, reminding me what the acronym is and what it looks like to do that for the next generation that's coming up behind me is enough. But for some of you, you may say, hey, Krishna, I want more. Well, as a gift, my mother told me you never go to someone's house without a thank you gift. My thank you gift to you is that I have a best practices checklist that you can use for managing a multi-generational workforce. And it gives you ideas and suggestions based upon each generation, questions that you can ask yourself, as well as best practices when interacting with them. And so if you're interested in that, click on this or scan this QR code. The second gift and final gift I have for you is, although there's going to be a queue, although when you go into the checklist, there's a small QR code, ignore that because it has an old date. My admin is out sick. Actually, she's not sick. She had a death in her family, and so she's not here to update it. And I'm not tech savvy like that. So, but anyway, if you go ahead, ask for the checklist, what we will do is that if you're interested, I will email you an invitation, and this is a bonus again, it's complimentary, a seat to a workshop that I am doing in Philadelphia along with an attorney. We are going to take it one step further. We're going to talk about equal pay and what are some of the things that are happening with the Department of Labor, wage and hour, and she's going to discuss that. I'm going to be sharing with you best practices for hiring and retaining your multi-generational workforce. Again, this is from 9 to 12:30. Seating is very limited. That's why I cannot take any walk-ins, and that's why I'm not sharing the location. It's because I won't have the room for you if you are not registered. So if you're interested in it, by all means, scan that QR code. Once you do that, that will put you on a list. Hopefully before the end of today, I'll send you an email asking if you're interested in it. And if so, we'll make sure to send it to you. Can BIA send out the checklist? That's up to them. We'll talk, and I'll talk to Katie and the team about it, and they'll see what they can do. It's absolutely fine. You said you're watching on your phone. If they can't send it out, Denise should have, Katie should have your email, and she'll give it to me, and we'll make sure that happens. Oh, she said we
get it
can.
out. Yep, we can get it
thank you.
out.
And last but not least, remember I talked about knowledge and passing down of knowledge. Well, the thing I want you to remember most is that it's not enough just to pass down knowledge. Knowledge becomes wisdom only after it has been put to good use. That's by Mark Twain. Knowledge becomes wisdom only after it has been put to good use. So I hope with the knowledge and the information that I've shared with you, you find that you can put it to good use. Just remember to just do things differently. Have thoughtful conversations. Don't compare, don't judge, and just really be open. And no corporate hazing about this is what it has always been here, and you're now going to go through the same thing. Serve one another. See, encourage, value, and empower. That's what you need to do with each generation. Okay? Now, let's see if we have any questions in the chat. Everyone, thank you so very much. If you need me, I can be found here. So, what questions are there?
Anybody want to put one in or raise your hand or unmute yourself? We would love to answer any questions. I'm just going to send out a little reminder. If anyone hasn't updated their Zoom recently, please do, because the latest version will allow your computer to download all the text from the chat into one file with the name of the meeting. So any of the information that was shared today, you can get.
I don't see any questions that I overlooked.
Any? Krishna, it was such a great presentation. I think you answered everyone's questions, or you're giving them a lot of food for thought that maybe they'll be contacting you with their own.
Good. Well, I appreciate everyone allowing me the opportunity to speak with you. I hope you enjoyed today's presentation. It was truly my pleasure as always.
And we thank you, and we thank our council for putting together another great event. We will send out more information we can get for free little flyer for everyone out. If anybody doesn't have questions, we can give you a few more minutes back in your day. We thank you all and hope to see you at our next meeting.